Hey Virgo, so this is your bi-weekly reading and we are going from the new moon in Sagittarius in tropical astrology on December 12th to the full moon on December 26th. So that is the period of time that we are looking at, and these are, if you've never joined me, welcome. These are short little readings. They're not as long as the usual monthly readings, and that's for us to be able to really look over the entire month. These are more for guidance that gets us through these waning and waxing phases of the moon so we can best take advantage of that energy. So that is what we're looking at here. So for those of you who do follow me, have followed me, just so you know, you may have noticed that it's been a little bit quiet with videos lately. I really had to take stock of the end of the year, realistically how much time I had between appointments and the holidays and traveling for the holidays and everything. And it was just, there's also a bunch of other stuff that I can't really talk about until after the holidays that's on my plate. And so something had to give. So I'm still going to be doing the bi-weeklies. And then just like snippets of astrology highlights as I can. And that's just kind of how it's got to be through the holidays. So I'm hoping to have the monthlies back and going by like February, March, maybe sooner if I can. And then the astrological highlight videos also, I hope to like have those back at a regularly scheduled time on the other side of the holidays as well. So with that, let's take a look at your 2-week period of time, right? So if you've not joined me before, I'll just say this very quickly. For my readings for the waxing phase of the moon, which is what we're looking at from new to full moon, I'm looking at what area of life is being pointed out to you in order for you to put your time, energy, and attention into that would be of the most benefit to build momentum towards, to really look at in terms of like, how can you build, how can you plant your seeds, how can you set your intentions, how can you do things in this area, and that this particular area of life would be the one that would really benefit all the other areas of your life the most if for this particular 2-week period of time you were to focus in this area. And then what kind of advice or guidance are we getting along with that, right? So I think it's interesting, like you have the 10th house showing up. So for those of you that aren't familiar with astrology, like the 10th house is really about your career, can be about your purpose, especially if your midheaven is there in your natal chart, but career, purpose. This is also your public roles. This is your reputation. Actually, your public reputations where you're most seen in the chart. So this is what we're really looking at. 10th house is pretty straightforward. Honestly, I feel like out of some of the houses, this is probably one of the ones that's like feels the most straightforward for a lot of us. And I feel like it's pretty appropriate. Like the readings this time around for these new moon to full moon readings at this particular time of year as it's being laid out feels just so apropos because it is the end of the year and this is a time of reflection. And the reason I say reflection, you're like, wait a second, you were just talking about waxing and building energy and that doesn't sound very active, right? But I think that as we talk about this, you'll see how that can still be, like that reflective quality can still be really beneficial in how we're building towards what we want to do next and what we're moving towards and building momentum in some ways. And the reason I say reflection is not just because it's the end of the year and this is a typical time of looking back and saying, how did I do this year? Like, how did it go as in terms of like what I had envisioned for myself and where I wanted to be and like where am I now and where do I feel like I really want to go next in this certain area of my life, like with my career, for instance, or purpose, right? Because those can be slightly different, right? And so not just because of the end of the year, but also because a few hours later after this new moon peak hits, which that'll be at 3:32 p.m. Pacific time, so adjust for your time zone. A few hours later, like around 11 something, I forget what time, p.m. Pacific time, we'll have Mercury go retrograde, right? And I'm not an alarmist about Mercury retrograde. Like, it's overhyped. We don't need to freak out about it. It's just that it hits some of our charts more than it hits others. Some people don't notice it when it happens because it's just not hitting anything in particularly like noticeable in their particular natal chart, right? But it is a time that we collectively can notice and feel. Like, we see speed bumps, you know, there's like maybe for travel or for communication. There are these kinds of speed bumps or things that slow down. That can be technology, that can be with contracts, but we're asked to look at the fine print. We're asked to slow down and review the plans and the things that we have to revise what feels necessary to revise. And in order to get that kind of perspective, sometimes we need to not just slow down, but really like sit with and be with like, is this what feels the best for me? Is this what feels right for me, right? Going forward. So there are a couple of reasons why I say that. And I think like when we're able to take a step back and review and revise our plans and like really look them over, we get a better sense of like, okay, now I'm really clear about how and where like and what I want to do about moving forward in this area of my life, right? And so that's probably how I would best advise like marrying the astrology with this particular new moon. You know, it might feel a little bit nebulous, like it might feel a little like it's not so tangible or so easy to feel into. Give it time, be a little patient with it, you know, journal about it, do whatever you need to do to like get the kind of clarity that you need, but just know that the new moon itself is going to be an aspect to Neptune that might make it feel on the new moon or within the days, like a couple days surrounding the new moon, might feel like a little nebulous. So don't worry about that. just know that you know that this is a time where I think you can still really get a lot of benefit. And what we have showing up for your card is we have the 8 of Swords, right? And you might go, that doesn't look the greatest, but I actually think this is really great because in speaking about reviewing and everything that we just talked about, I feel like that could be really beneficial for what this card is speaking to, right? This card usually says, hey, question your perspective, your filter, your beliefs, your ideas, your view, what you think is just solid and so, or has to be a certain way. Question that. If you think you only have path A and path B and that's all you think you have, there are actually probably way more possibilities than that are available to you and that they just need to be explored. Essentially, this card points to us being in a like prison of our own making mentally. Like we've trapped ourselves mentally, backed ourselves into a corner and allowed our perspective to be like contracted or to be like for the lens to narrow so that we only see like with tunnel vision, like, oh, it's only this path or it's only this path and this path, where really there's a lot more available to us if we are able to question those things and say, is that really true though? Like, are those really the only choices that I actually have? And some of the choices might feel, you know, like they're not exactly the ones that you had envisioned or that you want, or it might require more work or more creativity to have things flow better. However, I think that when we recognize that we're not really backed into the corner that we think we are, when we actually have more choice and availability, then it's more, even if we do choose, let's say, one of the 2 options that we only thought we had instead of the 10 other ones that there actually are, even if we do, we're choosing it, I think, in a more conscious way. We're choosing it more consciously and we're saying like, okay, I was able to review and see that this isn't my only way and that I do have other options and I can have plans like B, C, and D. And even though I've now been able to see that, I feel more comfortable or confident, or I feel more solid in making this particular decision first, right? And there's something that is, I think, more powerful, something more empowering about that gives us more agency in our lives, in our decision making, and especially when it comes to your career. So that's what I see coming up here. And, you know, so I hope that this feels helpful. I for sure think that it goes well with the astrology that we have going on that we're talking about with this. And if you are wanting to book the year ahead readings with me, that information is down below. So if you're wanting to do a full tarot spread for the year and like see how each month, like what the theme is and how that unfolds is, that's down below. If you're wanting to book astrology, we can look at the year ahead, or we can like focus in on like the first quarter of the year or the first 2 quarters of the year with regard to like maybe career, for instance, for you, right? Or for something else, right? So we can take a look at that as well. So if you're wanting to get those booked, like I said, my schedule is like kind of packed, so I will have updated it. And if you want to get in and book those before the end of January, then which I think like that would be the most helpful to like really looking at the years, like sometime before the end of January. So if you're wanting to do that, just make sure that you go down below, click that. If you have any questions, you can, in the booking process, you can enter your questions into the notes box. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, please give the video a like. It really does help. Share it with anyone who you think would benefit, who you think like, if you're like, I know a Virgo, you know, so, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.